for myself, one of the things that when people ask randomly, like, well, how do I connect with my true self? Like I'll see it on some of my Dr. Gabor Mate videos, where people will say, okay, if I'm just how do I find my true self? And I'm like, well, go into your fears. What are you afraid of? And because there's so much that you are actually afraid of that you have no idea. And start there at least. Go into your wounds, go into your pains, and start there. And so for myself, some of my healing, or a lot of my healing, is revolved around the fact that there is this part of me, that there's a darkness that's within me, and that operates without me knowing from time to time, or a lot of the time. And that's pretty darn scary. I mean, if that's not a fear for somebody, then I don't know what is. That's really, that's intense. That's bringing it right back to the pinnacle, focal, main vein point. That's like, you can't run away from that. If that's anywhere near a truth, that there's a darkness that lurks inside of you that often of the time is the driving force of your life. And it thinks for you, it just chooses for you. Again, this is the last place we want to go. To see that your darkness is most likely overtaken a lot of your light, and now you've got to fight your way back. Like, nobody really wants to hear that. Nobody wants to get entangled with that or responsible with that, right? And they don't want to see how that monster or that dragon, when it has come out, which is often at the time, how much damage it's done, right? How much it's hurt others, how much it's humiliated others. People in your life, the very ones that you are in relationship with. It can be your very own child. And so he wants to see that. And he wants to see how far they are away from the light and from true source. Like, there can be a breakdown. And you have to rebuild yourself up from that. I mean, back to the light. So you're having to go through you're going to have to go through the darkness. You're going to have to see, you're going to have to come face to face a lot of the time, and not just in moments, but like potentially months, years, lifetimes, with that which lurks within, that which is present within you. That which you've thought has been your best friend. It's huge, man. And not only that, but like, you got to do it in a way that other people, you're doing it, and other people, majority of people in your life, don't know what the hell you're doing. They don't know what's going on for you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how can they possibly relate? They don't want to even relate to what you're going through, because you're reflecting something that they're trying their best to avoid. Right? So you think that maybe, not you, someone, a person, thinks that if I'm going to go down this journey, go on this adventure, go into the darkness, and have myself stripped apart, broken down, burnt to ash, and how severe it's going to be, that I'd wish for the people in my life to support me and be there for me and assist me and aid me and guide me and love me and honor me and respect me and almost salute me, encourage me for what I'm doing, the work that I'm doing. But you get the opposite reception. You're called crazy, mad, right? They don't want to know you. They don't want to see you. They can't relate to you, right? And you make them feel uncomfortable, and so there's no loving arms that you often of the time that you would expect to catch you when you fall, or to be there for you, or to even when you have gone and you spent maybe a year or 2 years down this path of going into the darkness, of being broken down into pieces, of being burnt into the ashes, and being dying, and when you're reborn, that you would think that people would look at you and say, wow, and they would recognize how far you've traveled. They would understand the light now that you hold in your heart, in your being, in your presence, what you've attained, what you've gone through. And then you get the opposite. They look at you as if you're the exact same person as you were 2-3 years ago, in a way, depending who you're surrounded by. But I know for myself, people in my life will look at me and say, yeah, you made some changes, but so big deal, so what, right? They can't relate in the bigger picture of what changes I could have possibly made, the ramifications of what I've been through, the shamanic journey that I've taken and I continue to take. They are not looking and saying, I salute you, right? I honor you, I respect you, and I want you to help me, assist me, guide me, love me unconditionally, so I can also take the leap. They're not doing that at all. In fact, they're playing you for the person who you once were before you even started on your journeys, on your travels. They're relating to you on the same personality, through the same identity, and they're requiring you that you play that same game, and it's and so, for yourself, it's a heavy dose. It's a heavy deal. And it makes you quite lonely, or very lonely, and very, very. It's very challenging. I mean, it's challenging enough to having to go through the healing, to go through the programming, the deprogramming, to having to die and be reborn. It's hard enough, but the fact that you don't have people around you that are understanding what's going on, that you don't have the appreciation, and the fact is that by going on this journey, you're isolating yourself even more. So it's harder. You're ostracizing yourself. You're alienating yourself, right, from the tribe. And as human beings, we're not reptiles. We don't live alone, right? I mean, certain reptiles, they live on their own. I mean, snakes, for example, right? They don't like to live amongst other snakes. They like their own space. They lay their eggs, the mother lays their eggs, and she moves on. She doesn't hang around and nurse her young. They just move on. And they don't mind being on their own. But as human beings, we need each other to survive. From all levels. Obviously being mental, psychological, spiritual, physical. And so we don't have that. And so that makes it so much harder. And that's what makes the battle even more tough. But again, it's a battle nonetheless. I mean, it's the journey nonetheless that one has to take. And not only that, but when one has opened the door to the journey starts, and you can't necessarily go back. I mean, you can try, but you won't succeed fully. You know what I mean? Once you've opened Pandora's box, it's open. Once the genie's out the bottle, the toothpaste is out the tube, it's out. Okay? So now one is having to move forward, regardless of all circumstance. And so, again, coming back to that, people won't necessarily approve or like or agree or wish to be near you or share the same company when you are starting on your journey, and even a long way through your journey. You probably I mean, one probably finds that they'll meet other people on the journey that are like-minded, that they'll rather be friends with, in kindred spirits with, in fellowship with, friends with, relationship with it, than they would with people from their past. Because essentially you've outgrown your past, right? And those people who really did not serve you in any sort of way on your growth process become redundant, become unnecessary, actually become burdensome. So, you cut them out. You really do. And that's also very hard to do. Because some people, you love them. But they just haven't journeyed themselves, and they want to, but they just haven't been able to, and it's not their time yet, and so it's hard to leave them behind. It's hard to let them go, because sometimes or one knows that without you being in certain people's lives, that their hopes of developing and changing and growing and going on this journey becomes less possible or less reasonable. You know what I mean? Like, there's people been in my life that I've had to walk away from, and realizing that I was the best thing in your life in regards to helping you and assisting you to grow, right? To develop, to become initiated. I was really, and because I know that they got nobody else in their life. And so when I've had to walk away and not give them that opportunity, it's been hard. It's been hard. Or to people that, you see, it's kind of hard this as well. It's not so black and white sometimes. Like, what I'm saying is that I think that there's different areas of initiation for different people on different levels and different incarnations or something like that, soul levels. I think some people are literally here to wake up from the matrix world completely and utterly, do a 180 transformation, right? Get into all the conspiracy, all the Maya, the illusion, get into all the esoteric, all the mysticism, whatever it is, do the whole 9 yards, get into it, unveil it all, psychedelics, journey, you name it. That's what they're here for. Their whole lives are absolutely dedicated to this. They the wandering polymaths, I think that's how you say it. Whole life is dedicated to it. They raise their children in this way. They're orientated, their diets, their living environments, their practices, physical, practices, exercises, ways they spend their time. Their whole life is an absolute dedication to it. Then you get the other person who is still working within the matrix, who still might not be on the best of diets, who still might be working in a job that is not necessarily best for who they are, or well suited for who they are, but they're a good person and they're growing, they're putting boundaries in their lives, they're seeing the shadow, they're learning about the shadow, they're learning about the darkness, they're learning about narcissism, they're learning about good, they're learning about evil, they're learning about potential, they're learning about imagination and creativity, right? They don't know anything about conspiracies or hidden agendas or hands or something like that, or even they touch on maybe potential ideas of what happens when you die, or the idea of reincarnation, if that be so, and so they touch on these things, but they still will sit and watch 3 hours of television at night. They'll still meet their friends for coffee or for beers at the bar, whatever it is. They'll still be interested in the sports, the football. They'll have their golf buddies. They'll have their PC games. So a majority of their life is possibly just dedicated to lifestyle, personality, and whatever it is, and then let's say 80%, 20% of it is to introspection. Okay? So it's not the full 9 yards for them, it's not the absolute extreme for them. And then there's and then there's different people. There's different who live 50% introspectively, self-actualizing, and then 50%, within the matrix world, still being a player in the game. I mean, we're all players in the game to some degree, but we just see more of the completely initiated are the ones that see the materialistic world as just a means to an ends. It's not the be-all and end-all, okay? On so many levels, it's not the be-all and end-all. We see 99% of the time that we are spirit living in a human body. The initiated individual, I think, often considers the idea that they're going to die. They hold death very near to them. They hold their finite being very close in their minds, in their consciousness. But at the same time, they see their infinite being, right? But I would say the person who's half in the matrix, half out the matrix, in a way, who is the soccer mom, and you can still, the thing is that one can still be fully initiated and be the soccer mom. But there's a different level of intention and organization in the person's life. There's a much different level of consciousness that's going on, between the completely initiated, who's the soccer mom, and the completely uninitiated, or the half initiated. I mean, there is no half initiated in a way, but there is. It's not black and white. Because again, we all souls that have come here to learn certain things at certain times for certain reasons on the certain levels that we needed to learn them from, to learn them on. So we each been given certain particulars, right, and certain lessons. And so you could have the complete initiated person who's fully initiated, right, and continues to be, but yet it's highly unlikely that they would be a banker, right, but they could, or a politician, but they could be somebody who's like a botanist. Or they could be somebody who is a physicist, right? They can be doing these jobs. They could even be somebody who's a comedian, right? But so there's much to be said here. So because we're all given. So what I'm saying is that it's so multifaceted, all of this, that you are going to get half initiated people, and then again you're going to get the people that I think that maybe do get initiated into this in this lifetime, that their job is supposed to be completely initiated, but they make the choice that they want to live sort of in limbo state. They don't want to be fully initiated. It's their calling, but they just don't want to take it on this run. They just, they got cold feet, whatever it is, they had a change of heart, and so they'll stay in limbo. They won't go the whole 9 yards. Or maybe at a later stage in their life, something will trigger, and then they will go on the solar. Is it the solar? Return. Hard to say, folks. It's not necessarily black or white. It's not necessarily black and white. But I think you see what I'm saying here. Anyway, so ending off on that really is that one actually lives with every day the intention of becoming more of an infinite being, moving away from the finite. Right, and it's a continuous effort. I'm saying because it's one thing that when one addresses the darkness inside themselves, constantly, daily, seeing their fears, constantly, but then it's another thing as well, expanding into the infinite, right? Like what I'm saying is a lot of the time we're facing our shadow, our personality, our wounds, right? Which is the psychology, and in the spirituality part of it which is all spiritual in a way, is to move into more of the infinite state of being, that relationship with Source and with the divine. Okay? The two are happening still simultaneously, but I'm saying it's not just from a psychological point of view. You know, some people that I've met who are good, brilliant psychologists will be they'll be sort of somewhat agnostic, right? And they do deep healing and they do wonderful work and they're wonderful people, but yet a part of them, I find, is missing the spiritual to move beyond the finite into the infinite. Like they're not concerned if there is an afterlife. And I think one should be not concerned, but have the potential or the idea, the possibility that there is an afterlife and that there's something called growth and that it moves on when the body dies. I think it's a crucial card to be playing with in this game. I think you really have to have it. I think you can even be the kindest, sweetest, gentlest, thoughtful atheist that there is, but you're going to be missing a huge part. You know, you're going to be missing a huge part, and that's to the fact that when you know that the body is laid to rest, that the soul continues with all its growth, with all its experience, with all its development, and it continues. And so I think the first initiation process of this journey is the looking at the darkness within oneself, right? The looking at what you're unconscious about, looking at your fears, looking at your wounds, looking at your traumas, right? That which keeps you tied in from a psychological mind level, emotional level, right? That which continues to trigger you daily, right? That which motivates you. And when you started doing the cleansing and the healing and the purifying, then I think this next step is to move into more of the spiritual dimension, in a way. Yeah. Anyways, folks, I will end up on that for now. Obviously, there's much more to be said, but we'll pick up again on this soon enough. Alright? Wishing you well, and take care.